Hello, Marianne. How you doing today?
I'm excellent. How are you?
Doing fantastic. Marianne, today I want to talk about your managed sales teams so
Mhm.
that users of the Cloutus Marketplace looking at your listing can decide if they want to invite you for an interview about their sales request and needs or not.
Mhm.
There's three questions I want to cover with you today. So let's go ahead and start with the first one, which is who's a good fit for this service offer?
So, enterprise tech companies in the B2B space are that literally everything we do is with that profile of a company. And ones that have a pretty big ticket product that has a longer sales cycle where Intel is huge in being able to close that deal.
Fantastic. I think you mentioned earlier, ideally, when it comes to the ticket size, something in the annual contract value circling the 150K and sales cycles that go easily to 12 or even 18 months. Is that correct?
Right. Yeah, and that 150 is really kind of a baseline because if it's lower than that, the program's kind of overkill for that. So like we had a client that recently sold a 600K ARR deal. And we've had clients that close like a $4 million deal, for example, because of the intel that we were able to get in that account. So much larger deals that have a lot of complexity to them, and so that's really where we're a great fit.
Fantastic. Now, let's go ahead and talk about the components of this service offer. If you can break down maybe the people, process, and platform involved.
Mhm. So the people, I don't recruit sales reps and I don't recruit people with inside sales or call center backgrounds or anything like that. I recruit people that have a background in accessing people and being able to have a conversation. And because really what we're doing, and we're very phone based. So what we're doing is calling somebody and they will stop what they're doing and talk with us. And I say this all the time. It's not that people don't take calls. They don't take bad calls. So most
Right.
calls that they get, and you get them, I get them, they're bad calls. So I recruit people that have a much different background. And they're very good at what they do because really what companies are buying is access. They want access to their stakeholders. Second, I've got a amazing tech stack. We use AI powered parallel dialers. We've got all kinds of Intel platforms. We've got our internal sales and marketing stack that we use that really helps us to be in intent data and things like that. So we're able to really keep a pulse on what's going on in their account base. The process, so I actually own the telesales 2.0 trademark, and I built a whole methodology around that of how you engage with people and what's the cadence and what's the outreach. And the thing that I really try to avoid doing is emailing people because you can get in this emailing thing with people where you're going back and forth a bunch of times, you still don't know anything. And if you call somebody and talk to them for 5 minutes, you could find out a ton more information than that email exchange that goes on forever. So we really avoid email as the initial outreach, and we start by just calling them.
Perfect. Now, something else that you mentioned earlier was that while your customers hire you for appointment setting, they get a lot more than just an appointment set in their calendar. You give them a lot of insight about these high level ticket transactions and prospects so that they know the angle of attack and how to
Right.
really close those deals. Can you talk me a little bit about those conversions, that type of insight that you provide?
Yeah, and this is where we really differentiate because the intel that we get, and so to give you an example, we might call someone and we're able to create a narrative that's maybe 600 words or more. I actually worked with an organizational psychologist to build our reports so that people would read them, because one of the challenges we had is we were sending this in a narrative form. We get it, but all reps weren't getting it. Some of them love it and they're able to dissect it and do the right thing, but others couldn't. So I worked with an organizational psychologist to build reports that really address your team. So it's broken down into what we know about this account, what the prospect's expecting you to do as a next step, and what not to do at this stage. And so they get a ton of information in addition to if we schedule a meeting. And we'll schedule a meeting if that's the right thing to do. We don't try to make it something it's not, but we will schedule a meeting if that's the right thing to do. And all the other Intel accounts that we get, how to market to them, what their timing is, when contracts are coming up. There's so much that you will later see those deals closing. So that's why we don't just focus on appointments, because a lot of the stuff that actually closes are things that initially didn't have an appointment set.
Right. And you mentioned how, for instance, with the contract expiration, that could happen in a year and a half, 2 years
Right.
into the future, but you keep that regular communication with that prospect so they never get poached by another competitor, but always stay warm. So when it's ready or when it's time to switch, you guys are top of mind, or in this case, your clients are top of mind in those situations.
Yeah, exactly. And then we'll see if there's some, C-level changes, if there's M&A activity, if they've had any financial changes or any headcount reductions. I mean, there's all kinds of things that we're tracking in that account base that could open up a window to engage sooner, maybe, or to be able to maybe change how you're marketing and communicating with them, or even at trade shows. That this these stakeholders are going to be at events you're at, so exactly what to say to them. So it's really high value for the teams. It actually, if they've got inside BDRs or something like that, we're not competing with them. So we're doing something that is much more sophisticated than that. And so companies that really need to get access to the accounts they want to be in, that's really when they use us.
Ideally, account-based marketing, account-based sales approaches, this is where you crush it, because these are high-level, high-ticket enterprise deals. Now, that takes me to the next question, which is, what can a client expect in the first 120 days of buying this service? Because I'm guessing it's not the typical onboarding or something that you can just deploy in a week. It sounds like it's a much more robust process in which you act like an extension of your hiring companies. Help me unpack that, please.
Yeah, so we actually, during our setup, we have our own internal LMS platform where we'll build a module just for the client that talks all about their background, their history, the tech space that they work in, who their competitors are. We have a pretty extensive discovery that we do with them to be able to build that, and then we really learn what their selling environment is. So it's not that we just get a script and start calling or something like that. There's a lot of discovery that goes on so that we can have the kind of conversations that are going to uncover the information that they need. And then we also do a lot of list building for them, and we human verify everything. So we make sure that we're calling the right people in those accounts. We know what's going on in those accounts, what the messaging is on those accounts. So within that first window of time, we can start being productive. Like they'll start seeing records coming over within 4 weeks generally. I mean, it has a lot to do with their participation too. So if they're a little slow getting stuff to us, or, if they're maybe working through, some kind of, reporting cycle on their end or something like that, it might delay it a little bit. But we work really close with clients to make sure that we're doing the right thing in the right accounts.
Okay, so it sounds like that first month, those first 4 weeks, you have that very tight collaboration. The more involved your hiring companies are, the faster you can go through that process, level up your team, initiate the outbound. Are there any other maybe milestones or time frames that you would like to share with the audience around how long it takes to go live on average, to maybe start setting up some first opportunities or close some first deals historically, just so they can have an idea of how much they should allow this strategy to develop before they start to see some ROI?
Yeah, so generally within 4 to 5 weeks, they'll start seeing some records coming over. As far as ROI, I mean, a lot of that depends on what we're discovering in the marketplace. So if we're discovering an early sales cycle and their sales cycle maybe has a minimum of 6 months, they're gonna go into it with a lot more precision because of what we were able to give them. Uh, we don't expect things to close within 30 days. I mean, we do a lot of work with them to understand what their sales cycles are so that we can align with that. So we definitely accelerate whatever it is for them because we're engaging the rep after a pretty deep dive call. So a lot of times the calls that we have are what a rep might have as a first call. So we can uncover all that information so that when the rep goes in there, they can just have a lot of precision about what they say. And so they're not kind of going through a learning cycle. They can really start getting into the substance of what they want to talk with this account about. So we definitely see accelerated sales cycles.
Awesome. It seems like your team can now approach these conversations kind of like not a discovery from the top, but almost like having a proposal ready, a demo ready, already targeting the pain points that your team was able to discover and provide as an insight in the handoff.
Yeah. So a lot of times, we'll find out because everybody's got different reasons for making a change with their enterprise systems, whatever it might be. So we'll find out what are the drivers behind that. Who's going to be involved in the decision? What would it take for them to change? What happens if they don't do anything? All those types of things. And so when the team actually is engaged, and we work with our clients really closely to make sure that subsequent meeting that they're having is really exactly what the prospect is expecting. All of us, and again, you've experienced this, I've experienced this. So we might get a call for something, and then and maybe an SDR calls us, right? And we schedule something. Then we get on that call, and the rep we're talking to doesn't know anything about us. It was like that conversation that we had initially was just meaningless. And so then you start from zero again. And I see that happen all the time. So we really avoid that and address that up front. So we want every touch to matter in those accounts. And that's where you really start seeing your sales cycles accelerating.
Fantastic. It sounds like you're not handing appointments, you're handing opportunities in a silver plate with detailed instructions on how to close them successfully.
Yeah.
Awesome, Marianne. Marianne, thank you so much for providing more details about your managed sales teams so that users of the Cloud Marketplace can decide whether they want to invite you for an interview about their needs or not. This was very helpful, and I guess I'll catch you on the next one, Marianne.
Yeah, that sounds great.
Awesome. Bye-bye.